Hello, my friends, my followers, my fans. Welcome to our third video. Ta-da! I'd like to pay attention that we reached a very important milestone. We have 4 subscribers. Yeah, 4 subscribers. I'm very happy and we are going very far and I already can see the success. Wow, we have 2 videos and 4 subscribers, 4 entire subscribers. I'm so happy for my mom, for my daddy, and for my Pavlos friend to subscribe. You know, they're all my subscribers and myself. Okay. And just to explain a little bit before you ask, oh, so Felipe, you're using the same shirt. And I'll say, yes, I work from home, as most of the finance people during the pandemics. And as someone who works from home, I never take a shower, I never change my clothes. So that's a good thing. Not for my girlfriend, but for myself. And today we're gonna talk about normal distributions and why we should never use it for finance. It doesn't work. It's dangerous. It's dangerous, my friend. And I'll explain why. So normal distributions, they assume that if you take all the observations, for example, the difference in the stock prices, and you put them in a frequency graph, they will look like a bell, like this. So, we have a center, and most of our observations are in the center. And the farther from the center, like the tails, they get like way less likely to happen. So one example is like 98% of the observations should be between the center, the average, the mean, and 1.96 standard deviation. And then the farther it goes, like 3 standard deviations, 4 standard deviations, 5, it gets like way less likely. And I'll say that normal distributions work for some things. Some things from the nature, for example, IQ, height. So if you take the IQ of everyone, you see like 90, 100, and then a standard deviation around like 10, something. I don't know exactly the numbers. But then like to have someone with, for example, 200 IQ, it's very unlikely, like 1 in 100 million, like 100 millions. And then to have like 4, 5, 6 standard deviation, it gets way less likely to happen. But in finance, it happens in a different way. And the problem is we still use averages and standard deviations for most of our financial techniques. And I'll give you some examples. Value at risks, the VAR, CAPM, CAPM for determining prices of bonds. And for example, one of them, the guy got a Nobel Prize, and we think that, wow, Black-Scholes. This is the Black-Scholes formula. This is how we determine stock options today. And if you pay attention, you have these n's here. And this n, it's like you're taking this function and applying a normal distribution on the function. And inside each of those functions, we have something called standard deviation. Most of you, I guess, if you are watching these videos, because you already know what's a standard deviation. It's just like a measure for understanding how much the observations in average deviate from the center. So let's go. Why it doesn't work? Because finance is way more volatile than the standard deviation. And some things that in the standard deviation calculations of probability would be almost like impossible to happen, they happen. And another thing is because of the noise. So we can see that the prices, they're like going up, going down, but they have this noise. And the noise, according to the orthodox finance, this noise is like just mild, the same, like 0, 1, like they're not correlated. The noise is not correlated. But in reality, it is. We can see like in very stable times, the noise is like lower than it's expected in the way we calculate it, and in crazy times the noise gets like this. If you plot take, for example, the S&P price, the price difference, and you put it in a graph, you're gonna see that it's like this, very low, and then it gets crazy in the crazy times, and it gets, so you see patterns, so it's not independent. And one of the other videos I explained some things that we can use opposite to the, for example, random walks, or some of the volatility calculation methods. We usually use it for compiling risks. So I'll give some alternatives, for example, fractals of Benoit Mandelbrot, who is a genius. I'll talk about the works of Taleb, and actually I have the books here. This is Misbehavior of Markets of Benoit Mandelbrot. He introduced the idea of fractals, like this multifractal model, which would be better for calculating the risks of portfolios than the orthodox finance. And this is Statistical Consequences of Fat Tails of Nassim Taleb. I'll explain both of them in the next videos, but basically they're explaining things that could make our portfolios, our risk models, more prepared for these crazy, unexpected things that happen, the fat tails, you know. And I'll give an example of some fat tails. So according to the normal distribution, in 1998, for example, in one month we had recession in Japan, we had the Russian running out of cash, we had this instability, the China growth was showing some weak signals, and we had a impeachment process starting in US, Bill Clinton. So in the same month we had a decrease of 3.8%, 2.2%, 4.4% and 6.8%. And according to the standard probability, this orthodox finance, the standard probability, the probability of, for example, this decrease of 6.8% was 1 in 20 million. That's crazy. And the probability that all those 4 changes, this 4 decreases would happen in the same month, were 1 in 10 billion. So it's more or less like, okay, the last time it happened was when the dinosaurs were here, and then we had millions of years, thousands of years, and then it happens again. But it's not like that. In 2001 we had the same thing. We had the dot-com crisis, and it happened again. And then in 2008 it happened even worse, like 1 in 5 billions. And in 1987, in the oil crisis, when the Dow Jones industrial average index fell by 33%, the probability of that to happen was 1 for each 10 to the power of 50. It means that like it would happen once of like billion years, like, and it's not like that. So you can see it happens frequently. So if we base our statistics on the assumption that it would never happen, and it will happen in the frequency that the standard distribution, the normal distribution gives us, we are gonna get busted every 10 years. So let's not use it, or at least let's be smart. One of the things that some of these those mathematicians, those genius physicians say is that they're like, for example, instead of investing like everyone invests, like, okay, I'm gonna invest in the index and I'm gonna get 12% a year, yeah, and then when the crisis comes you lose 60%. Instead of doing that, one of the things that they say is like, okay, let's take a portfolio, 95% of the portfolio we will put in very, very low risk things like bonds, government bonds, and 5% we will bet against everything. We will bet in the things that according to the standard, the normal distribution, it's impossible. Because those kinds of things, if you lose, for example, options, crazy put options, they're very unlikely to happen, but according to the models, they're almost impossible to happen. So they will pay way more than what they should pay, you know. And also, it's not only about bad things. You have good things, like the probability that a company like Amazon in 10 years would come from I think like $8 per share to like $500 a share. So those black swans, they happen. So there is this idea of like mixing very low risk things with very high risky things. That would be like a mathematical way to kind of like make money tricking the system. But also, if you are like, for example, a risk manager, you could like integrate some, for example, this multifractal model that one day I'll explain. You can integrate it because it will consider what is not expected in the models and that happens in real life. So being said, if you watch all my videos, I'll teach you every time something different. Today I say that normal distribution is not for everything and it's not very trustable for finance. Next videos I'll explain a little bit more. I'll explain like how machine learning could help with that. So there are many informations we have to learn. So this is one of them, and stick it in your mind, and let's keep going, guys. Invite your 1 million best friends, so then we can come from 4 subscribers to 4 million, and it would be very nice. Oh yeah. See you guys. I'm going to my girlfriend's home.